We all know that signature smell as you walk into a dive centre. You can smell the neoprene as you walk through the doors, only that isn't what new neoprene smells like. It's probably the used rental suits that they have hanging up somewhere that you can smell. Hi all of you awesome scuba divers out there, welcome to the Scuba Diving Magazine channel, your favourite place for the latest scuba diving news and gear reviews. Yeah, you really need to be properly washing your wetsuit after a dive, because imagine a skin-tight rubber suit that you wear in the tropics, in the ocean which is where fish do all of their business, and then you combine that with all of your bodily excretions, whether you admit to excreting them or not. Keeping your wetsuit is just one part of being a smart diver. But when it comes to what's going on inside your body underwater, the pressure, the nitrogen, the physiology, that's where things get a little bit deeper. And nobody dives deeper into the science than the Divers Alert Network. So the Divers Alert Network, or DAN, is one of the most trusted names in diving for a reason. They are leading the way in underwater research that helps keep divers safer and smarter and just better informed. Dan has spent decades studying the effects of pressure on the human body, the mechanics of decompression sickness, thermal stress, carbon dioxide exposure, and a whole range of dive-related risks. Their work doesn't just sit in a lab though, it translates into real-world safety practices, training standards, and innovations that affect how all of us dive today. So if you want to know how long a diver can stay at a given depth, how pre-existing health conditions affect diving safety, or what emergency tech like closed circuit rebreathers is doing to diver physiology, Dan is the team doing the research to find out. So if you're passionate about diving and staying safe whilst doing it, check out dan.org to learn more about their ongoing research and how you can support it. Because when we understand the science, we dive smarter. So first of all, with your wetsuit, let's learn what you should do to wash your wetsuit. We'll look at some don'ts later. The first thing that you should be doing to keep your wetsuit clean is to jump under a freshwater shower as soon as you can after the dive. Try to use fresh, cold, or lukewarm water to rinse off salt, sand, chlorine, and biological materials. All of these things can soak into the fabric of the wetsuit, and whilst you won't be able to see them, once your wetsuit actually dries after the dive, you'll be able to see some of them and smell the others. Pay attention to like zippers, to cuffs, armpits and crotch areas for obvious reasons. Basically where grime and bacteria can accumulate. If you have access to plenty of fresh water, then you can just stand in the shower and doff your wetsuit whilst you're in the shower, so that you're effectively washing yourself and the suit at the same time. This helps to wash out as many of the nasties as early on before they're like embedded into the material. However, even spraying your suit with a hose after a dive isn't going to remove all of the nasties. You basically want to get the worst off of the outside and the inside of your wetsuit as early as possible, when they're still like in solution and relatively easy to just wash off, but then you have to take it up a level. Now you need to get rid of the more stubborn stuff that's penetrated into the stitching and the material in all of the little corners of your wetsuit. Every few dives, or when the wetsuit starts to smell, ideally before it starts to smell, use a wetsuit specific cleaner. They're often referred to as like a wetsuit shampoo. Normal detergents for like washing clothes and things, they aren't always formulated for wetsuit materials, so you really want to find a wetsuit specific formula, and especially one that works in cold temperatures. Soak the suit in a tub with cool or lukewarm water and that shampoo for like 10 to 20 minutes, or like the instructions will obviously be on the back of the bottle. Gently agitate the water to clean without wringing or scrubbing the suit too harshly. You want to make sure that the detergent gets into all of the corners on the inside and outside of the suit, so there's like no air pockets for the nasties to hide in unscathed, but you don't want to be pulling or twisting at the suit. After that 10 to 20 minutes, I don't know if it's necessary, but I like to rinse the suit after that soak to wash any detergent and nasties away. If you have sensitive skin, then that detergent may affect you. I just like to wash it down on the inside and out just with some fresh water. But now, of course, you want to dry it. You don't want to just throw your suit on the ground to dry, or just throw it on the boot of your car like a heathen. You need to dry your wetsuit properly. First of all, dry the wetsuit inside out first. The internal lining is often made to be absorbent, and that quite usually takes longer to dry, especially if you need to use the suit soon afterwards. You'll appreciate the inside being dry more than the outside, because the inside is the bit that's actually touching your skin. Doesn't matter if the outside is wet. So take a moment to take and turn your suit inside out, paying attention not to pull on any joints or seams or like the zipper, or like fold it where water can get trapped. Make sure you turn it all the way inside out. All the cuffs are fully pulled out, everything's neat and tidy, as if it is just an inside out suit. Hang your suit in a shaded, well ventilated area to prevent UV damage. It's going to dry a lot faster if you leave it in the sun, but it will fade if you leave it out in the sun. You'll often see wetsuits with like either stripes or just faded sections because it's been left in the sun for too long. Use a wetsuit hanger or a wide plastic hanger on the shoulders to avoid stretching or creasing of the shoulders or just any particular part of the suit. All of that weight, the weight of the suit pulling down on a relatively thin section on the shoulders, can lead to quite stretched out, squared, like 80s style shoulders, where the creases are actually like squishing the insulating bubbles as well, so your shoulders have less padding now. Get yourself a really wide shouldered hanger, as wide as you can find. They actually make them specifically for wetsuits, or you can use like one that you get with a jacket, or even just some foam pipe insulation duct taped over a regular hanger will do the job. You want to make it just as wide and soft as possible so that suit isn't digging into the shoulders. If you're really in a pinch, I've seen plenty of divers fold their suit over something in the middle so there's less weight pulling on like one particular area. I'm not too averse to that. Just always think about creasing and stretching. The same with the like over the car method. It's good because it spreads the weight of your suit over a pretty wide area. Just be careful of the intense heat. If your car's been in direct sunlight, the hood, whatever part of the car that you're putting it on, might be quite hot, and then you've got the hot sun above it. You don't want to cook your suit, basically. In an ideal world, aim for the windiest place in the shade to put your suit, but not so windy that it's going to blow your suit away. So zip your suit up, and make sure that the hook of the actual coat hanger is secured somewhere, and even if the wind blows it, it's not going to come loose. If you can't find anywhere convenient to hang a suit, then I usually bring some paracord with me. You can get pretty creative with that, either creating an actual loop by tying it onto something, or an entire line. It is quite handy to have a certain length of paracord with you. And remember to invert your wetsuit after it's dried, so that now the outside can dry properly. If you're going to pack your suit away for storage, you don't want the inside to be dry, but then the outside is actually moist. You need to get rid of as much moisture as possible. Once your suit is properly dry inside and out, store your suit dry, clean, and as flat as possible, or on a wide shouldered hanger in a cool, dark place. The perfect way to store your wetsuit would be like on a mannequin, so that the neoprene isn't folding in any place, but very few of us have the space for a creepy mannequin storage room for all of our suits. Folding the suit and putting it on a shelf can be convenient, but it can crease in that inner fold. Try to fold the suit as little as possible, and if you do need to fold it along natural folding spots like the knees and the hips, where it's not unusual to have a fold, basically. Be careful with the zipper as well. You don't want to fold that if it can be avoided. If you double the zip over and then put weight on that, it can pop the zipper, which can be a real pain to repair. You can fold it, but try and make that angle as wide as possible, and whatever you do, never put any kind of weight on top of it. What to avoid? No hot water or machine washing. Hot water breaks down neoprene and can deform the suit. High temperatures can cause neoprene to harden and lose its flexibility over time. Warm water is fine. Warm water can help to loosen up some of the excretions, but try to keep it like under 30 degrees Celsius. You don't want it too warm. Also, never use a washing machine or a dryer. It will damage seams and the elasticity of the suit. The constant like tumbling and turning can just be a bit too much for a wetsuit. A bathtub or an outdoor dunk tank is really your best option. Do try to stay away from like communal dunk tanks unless you see them change that communal wetsuit soup water quite frequently. If you don't like the idea of getting into someone else's bath water, that's effectively what you're doing with a wetsuit. So yeah, as much as it is going to dilute some of the nasties, it might be adding some extras. I also laughed when I read "do not iron" on the care label of a wetsuit once, but that often means that someone has tried it. I would like to say, obviously, do not iron your wetsuit, but that may not be obvious to some, and there are some exclusions to that rule. But yeah, if someone sees a crease in their wetsuit, and of course they know how to get rid of creases, they use an iron, well, the crease will be gone because you now need a new wetsuit if you use your iron on it, because you can melt it. There are some iron on like repair patches where the heat of the iron and the like pressure of it is going to help like loosen the glue and then press it into place, but of course be very careful about applying direct heat to one spot, especially if it's too hot or if it's for a long period. Double check that the instructions, and double check the actual temperature of your iron. You don't want to damage your suit. Harsh detergents, bleach and fabric softeners. Yeah, wetsuit linings can be made from, it's usually nylon, polyester, spandex or lycra. Harsh detergents, bleaches, fabric softeners can damage neoprene. They can fade colors and they can ruin that lining. So try to stick to wetsuit friendly cleaners because they've been specifically formulated for wetsuits and those materials, and needs to whatever you need specifically for a wetsuit. So it's going to be like antimicrobials, antifungals, all those kind of stuff. Look for that on the label, but yeah, something that's specific for wetsuits is better than nothing. Don't leave your suit in direct sunlight or car trunks. Yeah, I've mentioned heat and the sun damaging neoprene, but I'm just going to reiterate it because it's quite common to use neoprene in very sunny climates. UV rays degrade neoprene quickly, so your black neoprene suit will soon turn brown. Leaving a wetsuit in a hot car can literally melt or warp it, so try to keep them somewhere cool and dark. I know the loft or like the garden shed can look like appealing places to hang your suit when you're not using them, but the heat of the summer can be a bit too much for the neoprene and your suit can literally melt. Also, rodents quite like neoprene, so if they find it in your garden shed, they're just going to tear it to shreds, so try and keep it somewhere nice and safe. Twisting neoprene is only going to create tears or stretch out the neoprene. There are several seam like stitching types, like blind stitch and flat stitching, but many of them are like just two edges of neoprene that are glued together, and then they have some kind of stitch or like a tape to reinforce that join. But if you pull on that seam, then the glued part is just going to fail eventually and the stitch can pull through, and now you need to patch your suit. So if you need to, you can gently press out excess water instead if you feel like you really need to, but try to go easy on the seams and the zipper. Again, I've never been in that much of a rush to dry my wetsuit that I can't just let it drip dry somewhere. But yeah, try and avoid any kind of twisting, pulling kind of motions. Try and be as gentle as you can with your suit. If you put your suit away when it's still damp, you're just going to come back to mold and mildew. Always make sure that it's fully dry before storage, and of course store it in a dry place. If it's a really humid room with very little air movement, you're going to get mold. So run your hand around the entire suit on the inside and out, just feeling for moisture. If you must fold your suit, then try and fold it as little as possible and don't put anything on top of it. Any kind of weight on top of your suit, even another suit, will compress it gently over time, and anything harder than neoprene is going to dig in. So think like zipper pulls on wrist seals and your back, and you'll get compressed spots. So try and avoid that as much as possible. Creases can be removed a little bit with use by literally wearing the suit and moving around. The movement and the gentle stretching can help to lessen creases, but it's very hard to get rid of creases completely. A crease will create a cold spot in that area, but it's not the end of the world if your suit has a crease. Occasionally lubricate your zippers with some kind of zipper wax to prevent corrosion or jamming. Salt and verdigris can build up in the zipper and in the zipper pull especially, and cause that to seize. So now you can't move that zipper pull. If it does get stuck, soak it in warm water and be quite gentle. I've pulled metal zippers apart because they've just been stuck with salt before. So use a zipper wax before storage over that zipper, work it into the mechanism with the zipper pull to just coat everything in lubricant. And yeah, if it does get stuck, give it a soak, and you can use some kind of penetrative lubrications, but yeah, a good soak in warm water usually loosens that salt up, and if you try and move that zipper pull in the water, it should loosen up, but don't try and wrench it because yeah, it will probably break. Neoprene patches, repair small tears as early as possible with neoprene cement or some kind of patch kit to extend the lifespan of the suit. And the old adage of a stitch in time saves 9, it does work for wetsuits. If you find like a thread that's starting to go, then find where it ends, melt it down so it doesn't unstitch any further, and cover the stitch to reinforce that area with some kind of neoprene glue or a patch. But when you are using neoprene adhesives, a little goes a very long way. You can always add more later, but if it's like not enough, things get really messy if you apply too much glue and then you like try and squeeze it back and then it just comes out. It gets really messy, it looks really bad. So yeah, a very little amount goes a very long way, but yeah, a stitching time definitely is worth it. You have two good choices when it comes to wetsuit bags. A mesh bag that lets your suit drip dry during transit, because it's best to not let your wet wetsuit stay damp for too long, or the opposite, a dry bag. Dry bags are good because if you're driving home and you don't want your car to smell like a wetsuit, you can put it in the dry bag and it's going to keep it all contained. Yeah, it's two ends of two sides of the same coin. It depends what you prefer or your like method of transport. So yeah, I prefer a dry bag just so it's kind of contained and then I can wash it all out. But at least with a mesh bag, it's kind of drying as you're transporting. Also be careful of any Velcro that your suit may have. Most wetsuits typically have a Velcro tab around the neck, and whilst it will often have a partner section for it to grab onto on the suit, it's not unusual for that Velcro to grab onto just the rest of the lining of your suit and just pull at it. As soon as the suit is off, try and find that Velcro tab and then secure it somewhere so it doesn't damage your suit. Yeah, the number of suits that I've seen with that kind of piling is just the suit damaging itself, and you want to reduce that as much as possible. Changing mats can be very handy also to help stop sand and gravel from getting its way into your suit. Some suits come with a changing mat today, but they are a very nice investment either way. So if you've been looking for like a gift for a special someone, then yeah, an actual changing mat is quite handy, and some of them turn into bags as well. So you take the suit off in the bag and then you pull on a drawstring, it turns into the mat turns into a bag, so that's pretty cool. Ultimately, you want your wetsuit to stay as fresh and as new as possible, but you're taking it to some pretty funky places in the water and doing some funky things inside of it also. So it's good to freshen your suit often and try to keep on top of any microbes that may be taking ownership of your suit. It's also a good idea to take a look at some of the diving articles on the Divers Alert Network site by clicking on this link up here in the corner. They have a comprehensive list of articles on like how scuba diving can affect various conditions or how various conditions can affect scuba diving, and they're constantly studying the effects of diving to just better improve our safety in the water. So it's definitely worth having a look around the website. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful and subscribe to the channel for more scuba diving content. Thank you for watching everybody, and of course, safe diving.